The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog is giving away $15 million in Best Ball Mania 5. Sign up with the promo code SGPN to claim your first-time deposit offer of $50 in bonus cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Rhythm has the best AI picks and projections, and the college football product's about to drop. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportscampodcast.com/rhythm, sportscampodcast.com/RITHMM. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently early Friday morning, roughly midnight Eastern Time on July 26th. I'm Rosso, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Should be a fun episode, bit of a shorter one, only 4 matches to preview. It is semifinal time in Kitzbuhel and Umag. Thought about previewing Atlanta as well, but unfortunately we are missing a couple of the quarterfinal lines, so I didn't want to wait for it. Instead, we are going to skip Atlanta and move right into the semis in Kitzbuhel and Umag. Before we get into any of the actual preview, though, of these 4 matches taking place on Friday, do remind me once again to like, subscribe on YouTube. Also, a reminder, don't forget to review the podcast on Spotify or Apple. Subscribers have gone up. I know we're closing in on 400. Hopefully, we get there by the end of the weekend. Point is, though, if you are still listening to the podcast on Spotify or Apple, that's okay too. But you can leave some feedback, leave a rating, and a review. Also, a reminder to check out the SGPN merch store. We have a lot of great Tennis Gambling Podcast merch. We have shirts, sweatshirts, and mugs. All high quality. Recommend checking it out. And it's also pretty affordable. So recommend going to the merch store, not just for the tennis show, but also for the other shows for the network and looking at the actual featured shows. For the week, we actually have the MLB Gambling Podcast, show that I'm on as well. Make sure to check it out, and they give you all of the picks you need to crush the MLB season. Also, a reminder to check out the College Football Experience because they are currently going through their 134 team previews, which is insane to think about, but they are covering every team, and they have a video on each of them, so I recommend you checking that out. Subscribe wherever you do get your podcasts, and check out the SGPN app. So moving on to the actual recap of the Thursday matches, we had a phenomenal day. Starting off with the lock and dog picks, we had another sweep. For the lock, ended up having Berrettini in straight sets of minus 159. Bit juicy, but it got there as he was able to beat Moreno in straight sets. Did have a breaker because, of course, there was, with Berrettini being involved. Berrettini did get the job done as he won the first set in breaker and then ended up winning the second set 6-3 as he got the job done in straight sets. He's now won 16 straight sets. So Berrettini keeps rolling. Nice for us, and ended up picking up a nice winner. For the dog, another winner, as we ended up having Diaz-Acosta and Martinez over 2.5 sets at plus 135. That one was really never in doubt. Martinez did win the first set in a breaker, and then Diaz-Acosta ended up dominating the second set. He should have been up multiple breaks earlier in the second set, but he squandered a couple chances, but eventually ended up breaking, and he broke again to win the second set, and then he ended up winning the third set 6-4. So a nice win there, really never in doubt. Now, as for the other leans that we had on the matches, we had a great read on a lot of them. Starting off with Kitzbuhel, we ended up getting pretty much every match right except for the Baez match. Ended up liking Hanfmann to beat Seabolt Wild. He won in straight sets. Did I like Berrettini in straight sets? He did so. And also liked Diaz-Acosta and Martinez over 2.5 sets. That got there. So a good start to the actual card. Unfortunately, though, we did take a bit of a lean there on Baez to win in straight sets at plus money. Match is very competitive. Unfortunately, though, he actually lost the match outright as they alternated 7-5s in the first 2 sets. Then Baez did have a couple of match points in the third set breaker and unfortunately could not convert either of them as Gaston did end up winning the final. He was up 6-4 in the breaker, so he lost the last 4 points. Baez did, as Gaston ended up fighting off 2 match points and ended up converting his only match point, so ended up getting the job done. Nice win for Gaston. He's had a great week, and we thought Baez was just in too good of a form to lose to Gaston. We were wrong there, but still ended up getting 3 out of the 4 matches correctly. Now, we ended up predicting 3 of the 4 matches correctly. Moving on to Umag, we had another very, very good tournament for Thursday. So, Cerundolo and Sonego. I liked the over 2.5 sets. That got there. Even mentioned Cerundolo in 3. He won in 3. Mentioned Mensik to Barry Sang, and I liked him in straight sets at plus money. That got there as he won with a bagel in the first set, then won the second set 6-4. That Sang win against Fognini was hilarious, and then as a result, he was overvalued. We sold high. Mensik, I thought, was in great form, and he got the job done there in straight sets. This one we did get wrong, though. Did a lean to Rublev in straight sets against Morozin. But I did say specifically in the episode I was not going to bet that match because Rublev's a head case and I really didn't want to bother. So the point is Rublev ended up costing us a bit. Thought he'd win, but either way, he did not win in straight sets. Didn't have any money on it, though. And for the last match, we added a perfect read again, as we had Musetti to beat Lajovic in 3. That's exactly what happened. Lost the first set, then won the next 2. So overall, besides the Baez match and the Rublev match, and even with Rublev did win it, we got everything else right. So if you want to just go based on the actual angles, we got 6 of the 8 matches right, and if we got 7 of the 8 winners correctly. So once again, just a great overall day on Thursday. Hopefully you parlayed a couple of those together and you made some money. Hopefully we carry that over into Friday. Now, I was trying to think of any other takeaways that I really had, and I didn't really have much else. I feel like since we kind of called most matches to a T, there wasn't really anything that surprised me. Rublev was still smashing rackets, so that was not a surprise if you did expect Morozin to keep it competitive, but Rublev is still here in the semis nonetheless. Cerundolo ended up beating Sonego, and that was definitely a very entertaining match. Thought it would be, but Cerundolo did outlast Sonego in the breaker. So nothing that was too earth-shattering to me. I thought that it was a pretty fun overall day of tennis. To go through Atlanta, though, even though we did not cover any of the matches for Thursday, to recap those, not too much drama. Only one of the 6 matches today, or I should say on Thursday, ended up going 2-3 sets. Nishioka ended up beating McDonald in straight sets. Good for us. We have Nishioka to win the tournament at about 33-1. So it's nice to see him in the quarters. Point is, to look at the other matchups, you had Thompson beating Mayotte in straight sets. Tiafoe, another outright guy that we had, won as he ended up outlasting Karatsev in 3. Fokina beat Opelka 7-5, 7-5. Fun match there. Shame Opelka ended up losing, but Fokina returned very well and eventually converted breaks at the end of each set. Purcell beat Goffin in straight sets, and Shang ended up beating Shelton. Shelton just can't beat this damn guy. Shang is too technically sound and too consistent, and Shelton, I feel like every point's kind of the same. Shang returns the serve well, and then he waits for Shelton to spray an unforced error. And that's kind of what happened, as Shang got the job done in straight sets. So overall, going through a reminder of our actual outrights for the event, might as well do this now. So going through the outrights, our outright picks for the first event in Kitzbuhel did not go well, as Tabilo, Baez, and Martinez all lost, so that did not work out. Swing and a miss on those. Berrettini probably going to win the event. Moving on to the next event in Umag, we have Musetti at 6-1, and we have Mueller at 28-1. Mueller lost, so we still have Musetti at 6-1 as our lone outright. Only gave out 2 for that event, and he's a minus 200 favorite in the semis against Mensik. Hopefully gets the job done there. For Atlanta, though, gave out a lot of players. So Shelton lost and Vukic lost, but we do have Tiafoe at 6-1, and we also have Nishioka at 33-1. They play against each other, though, on Friday, so we are going to only have one guy left for the semis. Better than nobody, but the point is we do have a 6-1 and a 33-1 shot left in Atlanta. Anyway, before we get into any of the actual preview of the Friday matches, do want to remind you once again that we are brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, because they just launched their Underdog Streaks, which means if you hit your first 2 pick'ems, you can go streaking. You can even go on an 11-0 run, and if you do, you win 1,000 times your money. Plus, Best Ball Mania is live with $15 million in prizes. You can now use specials and boost on all flex entries, and if you want to use some Olympic basketball stuff, they will have options for Underdog Fantasy on that as well. Or tennis, of course, they have you covered there. Sign up with the promo code SGPN to claim a special pick any first-time deposit offer up to $5 bonus cash on fantasy. Promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Game Time. I know about all of you, by personally love attending sport events in person. It used to be very annoying to actually find a ticketing platform that I could trust. But that changed once I found Game Time, because Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets easier and faster. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down closer to game time, and you are looking at killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from receipt, all the lowest price guarantees that they have, and Game Time also takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. A reminder, my favorite feature is the image of seat use feature, which means that they will give you a preview of the view you would be getting if you purchased a specific seat before you actually spend your money, which is a great feature, because I'm sure we've all had a moment on other platforms where you have ended up buying a seat, you spent your money, got there and you realize that your view is obstructed and you indirectly wasted money to watch a sporting event that you can't actually see. So keep that in mind. That's not an issue with Game Time due to that feature. A reminder that you should create an account, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code SGPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again, create an account, redeem code SGPN for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished recapping what happened on Thursday. Once again, a very, very good day for us. Hopefully that carries over into Friday. Starting off with the actual schedule for Friday. So going through the order, we're once again going to start off in Kitzbuhel. Then we are going to talk about Umag. So we have Berrettini taking on Hanfmann in the first match here. Berrettini's obviously the favorite because he's won 16 straight sets, and he won a title in Gstaad last week. Now, Berrettini is about minus 475. Hanfmann's around plus 385. For the spread, you have minus 4 for Hanfmann, plus 4 for Hanfmann. I mean, minus 4 for Berrettini. You chop around, though, you can find 3.5s. Over-under in games is 22.5. And if you want to go for set wagering, Berrettini in straight sets is minus 135. Hanfmann won a set is plus 105. And the match to go to 3 sets is plus 160. Now, there is no head-to-head between the two, so nothing to go with historically speaking, but we know Berrettini has been in great form, and he has been rolling. He has not dropped a set in his last 8 matches, won a tournament in Gstaad, and he's beaten some solid players here. I think Kotov is underrated. Tavilo, we know, is very solid. Won both those matches in all breakers. Then he ended up beating Moreno in the quarters in straight sets as well. So I have seen some breakers for Berrettini, but he wins all of them. So the point is he is definitely the guy to beat so far in the event. And Hanfmann's been fine. The issue is it is a step up in competition as he ended up beating Seabolt Wild in the quarterfinal match in straight sets. Did end up beating Heidi in the previous round after Echeverry dropped out, and he also beat Munar in the first round. The problem that I have for Hanfmann in this matchup is that all 3 guys I mentioned are not great servers. And the fact is Berrettini is by far the best server in this tournament. And I do question how effective Hanfmann's going to be with his overall return game when he's against an elite server. And I feel like that's going to be an issue. It's another element to a game that Hanfmann has not had to actually battle yet, and I do think Berrettini's serve should really keep Hanfmann off balance. Now, Hanfmann's a decent server. I think that Berrettini can get a break or 2 in this matchup. The thing is, I don't trust Hanfmann in tie breaks either because he has lost 3 of his last 4 tie breaks despite winning the one against Seabolt Wild on Thursday. Point is, though, until Berrettini drops a set, I think I have to keep backing him, especially at this price. I think minus 135 is a good deal to win in straight sets. Berrettini right now is playing like a top 10 player in the world, at least based on clay. Hanfmann's ranked in the hundreds, so I do think it's a pretty similar breakdown to my matchup prediction against Moreno, where I just picked Berrettini to win in straight sets with maybe a breaker in there. I see a similar story here. I think Berrettini's better. I think Hanfmann can force a breaker, but until Berrettini drops a set, I think 135 is a good price. Give me Berrettini once again to keep it rolling in straight sets here. Moving on to the next matchup, you have a fun one between Diaz Acosta and Gaston. For this one, Diaz Acosta is around minus 119 and Gaston is around minus 101. For the actual spread, minus 1 for Diaz Acosta, plus 1 for Gaston. Over-under in games is set at either 21.5 or 22.5. For the over 2.5 sets, you have around plus 125. And for the set wagering, you have Diaz Acosta in straight sets at a plus 215 and Gaston to win in straight sets at plus 250. Now, they faced off a couple times already on clay in their careers. One time, actually, recently, as they faced off in Hamburg about a week ago and a week and a half ago, and Gaston did end up winning that one in 3 sets. Now, Gaston has been playing great tennis, ended up beating the likes of Baez, defending champion, beat Baena, who's a solid clay player, and beat Altmaier in the first 3 rounds while dropping a set in the Baez and the Altmaier matches. Now, he also ended up pushing Zverev to 3 sets in Hamburg, controversially, as there was a double bounce there, which went uncalled, but Gaston ended up winning the first set, then ended up losing to Zverev. No shame in that. Zverev's still a top 5 player in the world and the French Open runner-up. So he gave Zverev a run for his money, and then, of course, I mentioned a second ago, he beat Diaz Acosta in the first round. So an immediate rematch in this one. And I think I am going to lean to Gaston in this one. I think it is a toss-up, but Gaston has been in really solid form. And even though Diaz Acosta has also been winning, he's beaten, I think, worse competition, as he was able to beat Martinez, ended up beating Galan and beat Coria. I can't really dismiss the notion of beating Baez, defending champion, in 3. And I think Bain is pretty good too. But I think the win against Baez tells me that Gaston is, in my opinion, a worthy favorite in this matchup. And he's not a favorite. So with that being the case, and with him winning the immediate, I should say the first matchup about 10 days ago, I think Gaston has value. I think that plus money, you can find even money, maybe plus 105 somewhere, is a bit off to me. I think Gaston should be favored in this one, and I think as a result, I am going to go leaning to the dog here at a slight plus money price. But I also think that there's going to be value on the over in this matchup. Gaston's been dropping sets recently, and so has Diaz Acosta. Diaz Acosta has had 7 straight clay matches and not ended in straight sets. 4 of Gaston's last 5 matches have also not ended in straight sets. Give me a marathon. The meeting 10 days ago also went to 3. I see that being the main area that I want to attack this matchup. Give me the over in this one, over 2.5 sets. But I do like Gaston at this current price as well. Moving on to the 2 matches in Umag. For this one, you have a couple interesting ones. The first one should be an absolute war between Rublev and Cerundolo. So to go through the actual breakdown of this matchup, Rublev is the favorite, not a big favorite, but still a favorite nonetheless, minus 170. Cerundolo's plus 150. For the over-under, you have around 22 or 23 games, depending on where you do get your lines. You also can find the game spread, minus 1.5 for Rublev at minus 140, plus 1.5 for Cerundolo, plus 110. For the over 2.5 sets, you have around plus 130. Rublev in straight sets is plus 160. Cerundolo in straight sets is around plus 325. Going through the head-to-head of both players, or with these 2 players against each other, it's been interesting because Cerundolo did end up beating Rublev in Hamburg on clay in 2022. Faced off, though, in 2023 in Bastad, and Rublev did win that one in 3. First 2 sets did go to breakers. So the point is Cerundolo has given Rublev, when he was in good form, some problems on clay in the past, and Rublev is not exactly in great form. He has gotten by, didn't look amazing against Carabelli in the first round, and then he ended up winning in straight sets in that one, but still dropped serve a couple times. And then Morozin gave him some problems, and he ended up winning in 3. Cerundolo, though, beat Sonego in 3, and he did beat Dodig in straight sets. Point is, though, I don't really trust either guy. I think both guys are kind of similar to each other at this point in time, where the upside is tremendous, but the downside is extremely alarming. I like the over in this one. I think a 3-setter is a pretty solid option at this price at around plus 130. I think I have to go with Cerundolo on the money line, though, at plus 150, because if he's currently 1-1 lifetime against Rublev on clay, with Rublev being in good form, and last year's match was a war, and I think Cerundolo has looked better than Rublev in this event, I got to go with the underdog here at plus 150. I really don't want to lay 170 with Rublev. I'm not surprised both guys got here. I mentioned in the tournament breakdown, the preview episode, that I thought the court conditions did benefit Rublev and Rune and Cerundolo. But when you're looking at 2 guys that can self-destruct at any moment, I have to assume it's going to balance out. And with that being the case, I am going to go with the over in this one. But I do like Cerundolo for the plus money. Plus 150, I think it's disrespectful. I think Rublev should be favored, in my opinion, minus 140. I think that this line's too big. So based on value, I am going to lean to Cerundolo, but I do like the over 2.5 sets as well. Don't mind the team total overs as well for the players. Rublev's at 12.5. Don't mind that. Cerundolo's at 12 flat. Don't mind that either. But I do expect a marathon, and I will bet that accordingly. Moving on to the final match on the card, we're looking at a matchup between Musetti, our guy at 6-1, and Mensik, who is a very solid young player that I've been a fan of since the US Open last year, who's been dominant so far in this event. So Musetti is fresh off of the marathon win against Lajovic. He's minus 200, while Mensik is plus 170. For the spread, Musetti's minus 3, and Mensik is plus 3. Slight juice, though, to Mensik plus the 3. For the over-under in games, you have 22 or 21 shopping around, so mostly 21.5 if you can find that. And for the set wagering, you have Musetti in straight sets at plus 130. Mensik to win a set is minus 160. And Mensik to win in straight sets is plus 365. Over 2.5 sets is plus 140. Now, Mensik has been phenomenal so far in this event, and Musetti's been solid. I'm not surprised Musetti had a bit of a struggle early against Lajovic because I thought it'd go 3, and that's exactly what happened. Did beat Trungoliti, though, in straight sets in the first round, or in his first matchup, I should say, off the bye. Now, Mensic's not dropped a set yet. In fact, he's not dropped more than 4 games in a set. Beat Papiron, defending champion, in straight sets. Beat Darderi in straight sets as well, and beat Sang in straight sets in the quarterfinal match on Thursday. Now, the Sang match was a joke. I think Sang is not a very good clay player, and I think that him getting by on a lucky loser draw and then beating Fognini while only dropping 1 game was just all-time comedy, and it was an all-time sell-high spot on Sang. I don't think he's very good, and Mensik killed him. Now, the point is, though, Mensik had a pretty easy draw for the quarters, but I can't ignore how good he was against Papiron and against Darderi. Now, Musetti, though, based on his form in Wimbledon and his form in this event, I think is going to win. I think Musetti just has too much firepower for Mensik, and I do think that it's definitely a step up in competition for Mensik to deal with. Yes, I know Papiron won the title last year, but we all know that Musetti, when he's on, can easily be a top 10 clay player in the world, and with that being the case, I do think that Mensik is going to be a little bit outmatched here. I think it might end up going to 3 sets, but if I had to go for value, I actually would lean to Musetti to win in straight sets at plus 130. I think he's going to win. I think Mensik, even though he has a solid serve and some good firepower, I think Mensik can really struggle against Musetti's deep return position. And Mensik isn't an amazing volleyer by any means. I think that's an area of his game that he has to improve on. He's not awful at it, but the point is, if I'm not expecting Mensik to serve and volley that much, I think Musetti will get a lot of returns in play. And with that being the case, I do think Musetti is going to be able to really just rip both wings and eventually get the job done. Maybe get a breaker in here, maybe a couple of close sets. If I had to guess a score line, 6-4, 7-6, something like that, like a close straight sets win for Musetti. But I do think plus 130 has some value. But if Musetti ends up playing as well as he did in the final 2 sets against Vlahovic in this match, I think he will win in straight sets. So that's kind of my thoughts on that one. Either way, though, that's going to wrap it up for the 4 matches, the 4 semifinal matches on Friday. Now it's time for the Lock and Dog picks. But before we get into that, I do want to remind you once again that we are brought to you by Rhythm, because they have a lot of great AI picks and props that you might be missing out on if you are not on Rhythm right now. They dominated the British Open in golf, and their college football products about to drop. You can even customize your own betting model easily using Rhythm's tools. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportscampbuckets.com. sportscampbuckets.com/RITHMM. We're also brought to you by Circuit Survivor and Circuit Millions. Circuit Sports is back with Circuit Survivor and Circuit Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. Imagine the regret you'll feel if you win the office pool, but you do not enter Circuit Survivor. Don't have a trip booked yet for Las Vegas for football. Ultimate Classic weekend. It's a great time to go hang out with Ryan and Sean and enjoy some of the open bar events, the world's best sportsbook, from August 22nd through the 24th. Plus, use promo code SGP15. Save 15% off your hotel room for sign-up weekend. Sign up in person at Circus Sports between now and September 7th and use a proxy to play from anywhere. We also have a deal with footballcontestproxy.com. Save you $50 with promo code SGP. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished previewing the 4 semifinal matches in Kitzbuhel and Umag for Friday. Now it's time for the Lock and Dog picks. Starting off with the lock, I'm going to warn you there will be a lot of deja vu in this episode, because last episode we gave up Berrettini in straight sets as our lock, and once again we are going to run it back. We're going to go with Berrettini to win in straight sets at minus 135. He's won 16 straight sets. He's playing like an elite clay player that is definitely a threat to beat anybody on clay. And I think Hanfen's not good enough. Now, Hanfen is a fine 250 player, but I do think Berrettini's a step up in competition, looking at who he's actually beaten in this event. Beat Seabold Wild in the match on Thursday, who was solid on clay, but he was in pretty bad form entering the event. So I don't know how great of a form Seabold Wild was actually in going into that match in particular. But Hanfen won. It was competitive, though. Beat Heidi, who filled in for Echeverry, so kind of a lucky draw there in the second round. And Munar is solid, but he can't serve. So Hanfen beat him in straight sets pretty easily. Point is, though, Berrettini's serve is the most dangerous that he's going to face in a while, and I do think he's going to struggle as a result. Maybe a breaker, but he has not been good in breakers. Hanfen's lost 3 of his last 4 tie breaks, and we know Berrettini has been winning every breaker nonstop for the last 2 weeks. So I think you might end up getting a similar scoreline to Moreno and what we saw on Thursday. Maybe a breaker, but Berrettini, I think, will be too solid on the clutch points, and I do think that Hanfen will eventually, I'd say, struggle to convert those chances, and I think eventually he's going to struggle to keep his nerve. I think Berrettini will end up winning in straight sets again. Maybe a breaker, which could be a bit of a sweat temporarily, but until he drops a set, I'm going to keep backing him on clay, Give me Berrettini in straight sets of -135 as my lock. For my dog, once again, deja vu. Going to stay with Kitzbuhel. Looking at the Diaz Acosta match, and once again, going to go with the over 2.5 sets at +125. Really just a rinse and repeat, a breakdown of the Diaz Acosta match yesterday, because now he's had 7 straight clay matches not ending in straight sets. So Diaz Acosta has been a marathon man recently on clay, and nothing that I've seen this event tells me we won't get the same script here on Friday. So Diaz Acosta really being streaky and with a lot of up and down performances in the middle of matches by him, I think you're going to see the similar story that we saw for the last couple weeks repeat itself. And I think you're going to end up seeing a spot where Diaz Acosta ends up having a solid performance in a set, then a poor performance in a set, and it balances out to a 3-set marathon. Gaston, though, has also been involved in a lot of 3-set marathons, as 4 of Gaston's last 5 matches did not end in straight sets. Faced off also 10 days ago on clay in Hamburg. That match also went to 3 sets. I just see a marathon here. Gaston, I think, is good enough to get the job done potentially in straight sets, but I do think that Diaz Acosta has the firepower and the topspin to make it difficult for Gaston to actually implement all the finesse shots that he wants to for portions of this matchup. But when you're looking at both guys dropping sets all the time and they're facing off against each other, no reason to rock the boat. Give me the over 2.5 sets at +125. So once again, my picks for this episode are kind of a rinse and repeat for the actual picks from the quarterfinal episode, which we did sweeps. We're going to run them back. We're going to go with Berrettini to win in straight sets as my lock at -132. And my dog is going to be on Diaz Acosta and Gaston over 2.5 sets at +125. We have a couple episodes, though, coming up over the next few days because the Olympics actually start over the weekend. So we are going to have an episode for the finals in Kitzbuhel and Umag and a separate episode for the Olympics. So keep that in mind. We're going to have 2 separate tennis episodes coming up in the next 24 hours. Until then, find me on Twitter at Reichel Radio. Find me on the NBA show, the MLB show as well, and the WNBA show. Until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.